Chef Jose Garces. Welcome to Built Not
Uh,
Born.
Joe, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And yeah, let's get into it.
Chef, it is so awesome to have you. Let's start here. Chef Jose, for the listeners who may not be familiar with you and your work, who are you and what do you do?
I am a chef at heart. I'll just say that. I've been a cook and a chef, someone who loves food, loves to feed people more than anything else. But that's just kind of where it all starts for me. I've had a wonderful run, a fantastic career in the food and beverage industry. I've owned up to 25 restaurants at one point. I'm a James Beard Award winner, and I was an Iron Chef on Iron Chef America for several years as a Iron Chef, a philanthropist in Philadelphia. I have it's called the Garces Foundation, but it's going to be merging to Comunidad Garces. And yeah, we help the immigrant community, Philadelphia. Like we do English classes, we do community health days for this community, and yeah, bit of everything, Joe. I mean, hey, that I think that covers most of
Yeah, I think you sold yourself a little short there, but we'd
it.
love to touch base on just some of your epic restaurants. James Beard Award, your Iron Chef when you beat Bobby Flay, the foundation, all the great work you're doing there, and maybe my pick for the best fish tacos in Philly, the one you have by the Barnes Foundation, Buena Onda. That's unbelievable. But let's start here. Chef, you grew up in an Ecuadorian household in Chicago and you cook alongside your mom and dad. Looking back there, what were some of the first leadership lessons you took from that home kitchen that still guides you today?
My mom would come home from work, right? She worked basically a factory job. She was a QA person, would come home at 4:30 and have to like take care of three hungry boys. So from a leadership perspective, I saw her come home and like organize herself, manage the kitchen. She'd ask me to help out from time to time, get in there and help. And um, I think this idea of like executing a meal for a family is kind of a bit undersold. It's challenging, you're tired, you have to like think through things, you have to prepare. And so as a young kid, my mom and we weren't, I will just say, like, we weren't going out to eat all the time. It was meals were at home mostly, at pizza night, Friday night, a dinner out once in a while. Again, you have two two folks, my mom and dad, who were both, my dad was just going to school. He went to University of Illinois, Chicago. While he was there, my mom was working. He eventually was working as well. But these guys they were hustling, man, to put food on the table. Yeah.
What an example that is when you grow up and that's in your house. It's not like you see it in school, you read it in a book, your friends' parents are doing it. Like you see that in your own house. Like that's impactful, isn't it? When you see that day after day after day.
The struggles were real, getting, my parents, what I love about them is that they worked hard. Food was very important. But knowing that, rent was due as a kid, that they let us know, hey, guys, we're working hard to make sure you guys have a better life. And they were very much a part of like, not letting their own financial struggles, their own day-to-day struggles impact us. But it was just great to watch them, work together, collaborate. And, sometimes it wasn't so rosy in the home. They had a tough time too, figuring things out. But at the end of the day, their goal or mission was to put three boys through school and give them a better opportunity to succeed. One that they felt fortunate to have here in the US. And passing that kind of the work ethic onto us was pretty, I would say, pretty valuable at this
That's
point.
great. If you had to pick one, who was more dialed in the kitchen, your mom or dad?
Oh, my mom, absolutely. Her
Yeah.
palate was just amazing. I mean, she knew like seasoning, like she knew how to basically draw flavor out of food with using spices and just salt. Honestly, I think a lot of people miss out on that part of it. And she was passionate about it. She loved making empanadas, ceviches, cakes. She would get into like savory cooking. She was into it. And my dad was more of a weekend warrior. He was like the grill guy, the steaks guy, like on the weekends, like, hey, and I enjoyed that too, because he was the curator of our food on the weekends. So I would do the weekend grocery shopping with him and pick everything up, bring it back. And it was I would say a very important time in my life for sure.
Oh, no doubt. Was there like a specific dish or moment with your mom that clicked and said, "Hey, I want to be a chef or I want to go into the hospitality industry"? Was there a moment that you remember?
You know what I remember, honestly, Joe? It was more of like the like finger lick moments.
Yeah.
Like she would make like a cheesecake batter, and I was, oh, loved it. Like, have a big lick full of like, the bowl, or she would make the best mashed potatoes. I mean, just over the top mashed potatoes. And it was like and this is why I think I enjoyed the kitchen, because before everyone ate it, I got to preview things. I got to try things a little bit. So I think there was, no one in our family was in the hospitality or restaurant business. It was like that was not even close to where I thought I would land ultimately as a career. It was just more a function of, folks who really appreciated good food, good ingredients, and like cooking it in our style, and a Latin American and Ecuadorian influenced style.
Doing some research, I see that you are a varsity wrestler, football player in high school before you were a professional in the kitchen. Did you learn anything in those two sports, that how to handle pressure, toughness, preparation? Because
Oh man.
because the restaurant business is, it's no joke. I mean, I have to tell you, I mean, that's
Yeah.
some rough business.
Absolutely. I mean, I think my time in sports, and I played football from sixth grade through the end of high school. I wrestled in high school, as you'd mentioned. And there are so many tough moments that you face as an athlete, whether it's collaborating with teammates to get a great outcome, or pushing yourself physically to be the best you can be in your sport, or finding yourself, and I found this a lot in wrestling more so than football, was just this kind of one-on-one competitive nature where it's me versus another individual,
Yep.
and he wants to pin me, I want to pin him, and there's going to be a battle that ensues. And those moments, and I'll say, the thing about wrestling that I don't know that a lot of people appreciate it, is in high school it's 3 3-minute rounds, and boy, every single second your heart is beating,
Yeah.
you're like, it's certainly cardiovascularly like very strenuous. But I found myself many times, certainly in wrestling, where I ended up, I wrestled in the Chicago Catholic League. So this is Mount Carmel, St. Lawrence, St. Rita, for those folks that know, really tough conference. In fact, Donovan McNabb went to Mount Carmel. There was other like pro football players that came from some of the programs there. And so it was a tough Chicago hard as nails conference. And my senior year, I won our conference tournament, a wrestling tournament. That still ends up being a moment that I look back with great admiration and pride, because I wasn't supposed to win, wasn't supposed to be there. I just gritted it out and wanted it more than anyone else. So hey, that those moments are ones that you find in business that you can go back to and say, oh, hey, chips may be down, but I'm going to fight here, keep moving.
Now, one interview you did, you were working since 8 years old, and there's a joke you tell that your social security is looking pretty solid. Did you ever like starting that young? What did that teach you about, like, say, work ethic, sacrifice, even like delayed gratification? Like that's a young age to start working. How's that influence your mindset?
Yeah, I think, when I think back to that time, Joe, I appreciated like the entrepreneurial and capitalistic mindset that we had. I don't know, it was like, hey, if you want to get ahead, there are options for you. And even at 8, I was literally in elementary school, and a friend said, "Hey, I'm doing this paper route. You want to come do it with me? We go early." And I thought, oh, and I talked to my parents about it. Like, oh, okay, I mean, it seems a little early to go before school. How do you feel about it? I'm like, yeah, I think I could do it. And there was something about that journey and taking that step at that moment that was really catapulted me into understanding that, hard work and work ethic pays off. even at 8, I was getting the tennis shoes I wanted. I don't know, the jersey or shirt. I had my own finances taking. I was already like going. And I think knowing that my parents were also likely struggling to make ends meet or whatever it is, there wasn't an abundance of things happening in our home. So maybe that also kind of like drove that decision, but it's
Mhm.
one that I think, yeah, has really served me well.
In that interview, you said being Ecuadorian is something special to me. In an industry, when you think restaurants, like being Italian, you think Italian restaurant, you think Italian chefs, you think French chefs. How has that Ecuadorian identity become a competitive advantage?
Here's what I'll say. Most people may or may not know this, but Ecuadorians at heart or at our core, I think we're some of the best cooks. Just basic like cooking knowledge, cooking know-how. If I worked in New York for several years, and a lot of the best cooks in the restaurants and some of the best restaurants were Ecuadorian, unbeknownst to me. I mean, I grew up in Chicago, didn't know that there was this whole community of Ecuadorians that were like cooking in restaurants
Mhm.
because they're good at it. And so I think there's something to be said about, so you look at the regionality Ecuadorian cooking. You have the mountains, you have the Sierra, which is kind of like the valleys, and you've got the coastline, get the whole Pacific coastline. So there's a lot of access to ingredients. I think that Ecuador is undersold in terms of its cuisine. I know that for me, I've always been waiting for that moment when it feels right to do an Ecuadorian restaurant. Who knows?
Mhm.
But I just think hardworking people in general, they're agrarian, they're fishermen, and they work hard and they love food. I don't know. I think that those are my roots, so I'm glad I got them.
Yeah. Was there ever a moment where were you ever trying to fit in, or did you always lead with that identity?
Yeah, no, I think certainly given these times, it's just kind of come full circle in
Yeah.
many ways. It's so funny, Joe. So when I grew up in Chicago, and Chicago can be, what it is. You've got a lot of. I had Italians, I had Irish folks. Like it was, and here I am. We're talking about the 1970s, right? Early 70s. I'm an Ecuadorian American kid, and I'm finding that in during this time as I'm growing up that I'm better served acting more American, at speaking English, being more engaged, being more immersed than I am being Ecuadorian, right, in Chicago. I'm just finding that that's probably a better path for me to lead and move forward. So I conformed, went into this mode of, hey, I'm going to appreciate my roots at home and I'm going to embrace what I have going on in my home culture with, family. But while I'm here and I'm going to embrace being an American. And it's funny because coming back to it now, these like where we're at today, it's so funny that we're here because I thought we were past that moment for some. It was like, that things have evolved and clearly they haven't that much. So it is what it is.
Let's go to the rise, your path to becoming the Iron Chef. All right, take us back to the early days here. Was there a chef or a mentor or someone who saw that leadership in you before you saw it in yourself?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I had a very close friend and chef mentor. His name was Douglas Rodriguez. And I was cooking in New York. And Joe, honestly, I was having a blast. I was cooking, but I was going out, I was hanging out, having a great time. But there's a certain point in your career where you that I had to really like buckle down and figure out where I was going with all this. This was like my early 20s, mid 20s. Chef Rodriguez, I'd ascended finally after grinding for a few years in the business. I got myself to a chef position at a restaurant called Boulevard in Manhattan. It was on 60th and 3rd. And it was my first time overseeing a restaurant. And to be honest, I was like messing up. I was not doing quality control. I was not like managing the cooks the right way. And eventually that trickles into guest experience. And then our
Mhm.
sales dropped. And then the owners were like, Jose, listen, we love you, but this is not working. So I got let go. And I was like, man, whoa, that first time I got fired. And I was like,
Mhm.
whoa, that was a tough setback. And I looked around the landscape in New York, and there was only one guy. I said, if I'm going to stay in New York, I'm going to work for this one chef. His name was Doug Rodriguez. And I went, I found him. He was at the time very popular in the Latin space. He was what was called the godfather of Nuevo Latino cuisine. He was the guy. So I went, I saw him. He had just opened a restaurant called Chicama in ABC Carpet and Home in New York. And it was like the hottest restaurant. Literally, it just opened like a week or so. And I'm like, Chef, I'm I just got let go. You're the only chef I want to work for, the only person. And I was making a pretty good size salary. He's like, no problem, Jose. You're going to come here, but I'm going to pay you $12 an hour to just come and, be a line cook. And this was after about 10 years in the field. And I was like,
Whoa.
oh man, I was just like, whoa, all right. That was a shot. I was definitely like, a moment of like reflection and how do I move forward from this? But I took the opportunity anyway. And I just went in and put my head down and just started like cooking and doing and just getting focused on what had to be done in the restaurant. And I guess my energy that I was giving off and the work I was doing was being recognized by chef and the team. And eventually they promoted me to sous chef, eventually chef de cuisine. And that's how I actually got to Philadelphia. Was Douglas said, hey, I'm opening a restaurant with Steve Starr called Alma de Cuba in Philadelphia. Will you be my chef there? And I had a nice tenure there with Chef Rodriguez and Starr. And yeah, it was quite a journey, quite an experience. But Douglas was a flavor master. Like his palate still beyond imagination, how this man could eat something, come back and really describe exactly what was in there and know how to cook it. And so yeah, I was a sponge off of him for several years.
Well, that's great. That goes back to there's old business maxim I heard from somebody. It's sometimes it's not what you get, it's who you become. Right. So
Right.
like maybe like you didn't get the big money at the moment, but like you became someone different, working that line, learning from him, and you're different as you exited that situation as when you entered. And that was probably more than if they gave you more money, but like you were the same person on the other side, right?
I think so. I think the one big thing is, a misconception around failure when you're young
Mhm.
or even when you're older. I think you have to be mentally strong enough to realize that there really are no failures. It's just a function of learning and growing. So I learned in that moment that, I learned one thing, that I was mismanaging someone else's business. I learned that I had to take a step back to take a step forward. And I learned that if I wanted to succeed, I really had to get focused and driven. And
Mhm.
if I didn't do that, then I would just be mediocre, which I didn't want to be.
When you were fired at that point, what was the biggest thing you changed the next time you were put in charge? You had to sum it up. Like, what?
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that I realized there were touch points in the business that I just missed.
Gotcha.
And I made real clear notes of those and made sure that I didn't miss those going
Mhm.
forward.
That's great. All right, let's go to one of my favorite restaurants in the city, which I may be going to this Friday night.
Okay.
2005, you open Amada, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Whoa, turning
yeah.
point. So people are familiar with Amada in Philly. Things like on Second and Chestnut, maybe.
Yep.
Spanish tapas in Philly. Bold bet. There was nothing like it at the time when it opened. What gave you like the confidence and the swag to open something that to swing that big in Old City at that time?
Yeah, so I had been working for Steve Starr in Philadelphia from 2000 to 2004. I opened Alma de Cuba, and I also created El Vez with Steven,
Yeah.
but ultimately I brought that concept to him. And Steven was a great, I would say, business leader and also a great corporate teacher. So I had access to P&Ls and managing the business, understanding how it all worked. And that was my business school. It was like 4 years working in the
Mhm.
Star organization, like just understanding how all the mechanics work to get profitable. So after 4 years with Steve, and I'm sitting here while I'm doing all majority of the work. I'm creating these menus. I'm here every day. I'm making sure, and I'm seeing the P&L and the profitability. I'm like, okay, I got this. I'm ready to do this for myself. And so I guess having the business knowledge and
Mhm.
acumen that I picked up from Star gave me the confidence, but also Philly, the one thing I'll say about Philadelphia is, and it's been such a beautiful place for me, the community, the city. During those 4 years in working with Star, I had started to develop a local following, people who were, understanding what I was doing, where I was. And I think that there is momentum during that time after being there 4 years to do my own place. So there's people waiting to see
Mhm.
see what would happen. And that gave me the confidence. And I'll tell you, I went to Steven and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this Spanish tapas place in Old City." And he's like, "Jose, that location, that location sucks. And you know what? People in Philadelphia don't eat that much pork. So you're all." And I said, I just stuck to my guns. I had a sense, I just like inside, I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna do this. And when I did do it, I'll tell you, I was to get the restaurant open, and I had to raise $1 million.
Wow.
And that was a scary moment for, first generation Ecuadorian American kid, no financial really background. But understanding that, if I can create this business from what I've seen, there will be success. But it's very scary times. We ended up having to collateralize the loan with our home. And the first like month, let's call it 6 weeks, we were not hitting our pro forma. We're not hitting our sales numbers. So it was another moment to say, all right, let's get down. Let's get dirty. Let's get to making sure every dish that comes out of this kitchen is perfect, that every experience, that everyone that comes in has the experience that we want them to have, and then go from there. And that actually, you talked about wrestling and football and some of these adversities, it all comes back in those moments. And then we were able to move forward and eventually got a 3-star rating from the Inquirer, and things just took off from there.
First off, Amada is amazing. That's one of the restaurants years ago. I brought a bunch of people from New York that we had a work meeting, and a bunch of people in New York joined us. And I had a reservation there for like 10 people. And the New York people couldn't believe a restaurant was that good in Philly because they think there's nothing that good in Philly. Like when people come to Philly, it's underrated, the restaurants. You come here and you can't believe how good the restaurants are. Like the restaurant scene is strong, right?
Well, I would say that, nowadays, during that time, yes, absolutely. Nowadays, Philly is definitely on the map, front and center. We've got Michelin rated restaurants here. We have James Beard Award winners across the board. It's an amazing culinary destination, and one that I'm proud to have contributed to. And I only see it continuing to
Mhm.
go up. There's a lot of talent there.
So great. And then let's get to the Food Network. At one point, the Food Network comes calling for the next Iron Chef. First, how'd that come about? And then what's it like cooking under that extreme pressure on national TV? How'd that shape your just leadership and your competitiveness?
Yeah, so in 2007, I auditioned for the first season of Next Iron Chef. And I didn't make that cut during the audition, but they brought me back to compete against Bobby Flay. And so I competed on Iron Chef America as a competitor, beat Bobby, battled Melon. Check it out on YouTube. It's still there. And Michael Simon won the first season of Next Iron Chef and became an Iron Chef that season. In 2009, the producers reached out again and said, "Hey, Jose, will you come audition again for season 2 of Next Iron Chef?" So I auditioned, made the cut, competed against 9 other like nationally known chefs, competitors, and man, had several times during that season where I thought I was like gone, thought I wasn't going to make it. Um, they sequestered us. I was away from my kids and my wife. There's like no phone calls, no communication. It was really like tight knit situation. That alone puts you into a different headspace. But there was a couple battles. One battle of Indian cuisine. I about 45 minutes into the battle. First off, I'd never cooked Indian food. 45 minutes into the battle, I cut my finger. There's blood, won't stop. There's a medic. I'm like, hey, medic, help me out. And there's things that are on the stove working. I don't know. And I'm like, okay, this is it. I'm leaving. This is kind of the end. There's no way my food's going to make it. And somehow I'm able to pull things together and I win that battle and go on to Tokyo to beat three other chefs. The finale was in New York, and it was just like a game-changing, career-changing moment to win, to become an Iron Chef, to battle consistently. And yeah, it still is one of the most exhilarating things I've ever done. Because as a competitor, and if you watch any of my episodes, I'm pretty calm. I try to stay relaxed, but inside there's a fire burning of
Yeah.
like what to do, what am I doing, where am I going, where is this happening, what is the best way to achieve a great outcome. So it's cool.
So cool. After you win something like the Iron Chef, what changes? What's the first thing you notice that changes?
Well, I think food television and television in general, I think I'll just say this, can create a false sense of celebrityness. I'll just say that, right?
Mm.
It's like I've always found that, and looking around the landscape, some of the other, let's call it celebrated TV shows, I think the ones that keep it in perspective have done well. If you let it take over too much, it can be, I don't know, you can put yourself in an odd space. I'll
Yeah.
just, without getting into too much detail, but what changed for me was just opportunity. I was looking at a lot more business ventures, a lot of, folks wanted restaurants or they wanted me to do catering or they want it just the things were just flowing. And so yeah, it was just learning to navigate new opportunities.
You beat someone as noted in the culinary world as Bobby Flay. Is he pissed? Are you guys buddies? Like, how's that work? What's that work at? How's that feel afterwards?
I mean, I'll tell you what, Joe, I don't like to lose.
Yeah.
I get pretty upset, and most of the chefs do.
Yeah.
So, and if you're battling with someone, it's fine. Again, there is a competitive spirit there, but there's also like a just common mutual respect for one another. Yeah, but you don't want to lose.
Yeah.
That's at the end of the day. You just don't want to lose.
It's back to that high school wrestling, that one-on-one, right? It's just that
Yeah.
competitiveness. Last I counted, this number may be on or off. Like you have like an 18 restaurant empire, multiple states, multiple concepts. How hard is it when you scale to that level to get your culture right? Like the culture you'd have if you just had one restaurant and it's all Jose all the time. Like, how hard is it to keep that culture and the concepts right as you grow? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, culture is very important. It is the number one thing in scaling is developing brand culture, right? And I think that what I've learned is that my words matter, and certainly in the workplace. So I really try to carry myself in the most professional way that I can. And culture really, to me, let's call it in the restaurant world, comes back to like family, like feeling like you're family, feeling like you're a part of something. A lot of folks that work in the restaurant business are cast-offs. There are people that maybe, are disillusioned with whatever work environment or work opportunities they have. So they come into restaurants with this kind of like, hey, I need a shot. I need an opportunity. So and I love that type of person because we're here for it,
Mhm.
down for it. Come on in and be a part of something good. And so I do believe that there's just a lot of value in creating great culture. It's not easy. It's
Yeah.
every day, and it's also like getting everyone else to buy into that. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's I would say it's the hardest thing to do in our industry.
Yeah, because you get the culture right, so much else just comes together, right? Because that gets you through a bad day, a bad week, a bad month. But if the culture's bad, and then there's a couple bad days or weeks in a row, it gets rough, though, right? The culture holds, it's the glue, it just holds everything together.
Well, Joe, what I found out was during my time as a cook, and what I had done strategically as I got in this industry was, when I got in, I'm like, oh man, this is a very physically demanding
Mhm.
job. And as I decided to embark on, ultimately, the goal was to open my own restaurant. That was it. From the time I finished culinary school, I said, I'm going to gain as much experience as I can until I can open my own place. And usually my strategy was like, hey, I will come in and tell the chef or owner, hey, I'm going to give you a solid year. You got me for a year, no problem. After that, no guarantees, because I'm not going to sit here and grind. And I wanted to keep learning. And so during that time of, let's call it like culinary training or chef
Mhm.
training in the field, I started to realize about cultures and environments and how important they were. So when it came time to open my first restaurant, I already had a good sense of how I wanted to treat our folks, how we wanted to lead and guide. And so that was a pretty big, yeah, I would say learning journey for sure.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing that. Let's move over to a really cool service that you're part of. You're now partnering with Cook Unity, and you're sending food into homes all over the country with your name in it. First off, what drew you to that model? That is so unique.
Yeah. So I think what drew me to it was not necessarily a draw, but was COVID. So 2020, 2021, when I joined the platform, our restaurants had been not closed, but certainly we had certainly downshifted all of our services and our folks. And it gave me an opportunity to explore a lot of other aspects of food and beverage, which I was truly excited about. So I started looking at consumer retail goods and other ways to explore using my talent to gain some financial success, right? And so Cook Unity was there, and to me the challenge was with Cook Unity. So it's a meal subscription house. We prepare meals that are easy to eat, reheat at home, whether it's in the oven or in the microwave. And my challenge was, and some chefs might look at it and be like, oh, like so that's a little below grade. It's a little below my kind of expertise. And I looked at it as, man, this is amazing. I can apply everything I've learned to this like 4x8 tray and give and provide somebody an amazing experience while practicing my craft. And so it's been what a great affiliation and partnership I've had with them. I've been with them since 2021. I'm a chef on the platform. I also have a second brand on the platform called Livy's All Day Cafe. Livy is my daughter Olivia. And so that brand is a little more health conscious, certainly diet conscious, and my brand is just more my Latin based foods. And so we're in Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, Austin, Texas, and Toronto. And from those hubs, actually, what's cool about Cook Unity is they're a logistics company, so they understand. I'm getting my meals from the New York commissary all the way up here to Maine.
Like when those meals are prepared, and my wife and I, but we've had them for a while at Cook Unity, and they're great. How do they keep your level of like quality and like making sure that it's like a Jose Garces meal? Like how are you confident like those, I don't know, 3,000 meals that go out with your name on
Yeah.
it represent you properly?
So I put a lot of effort and energy into the R&D process. So we do heavily tested recipes to make sure that the final products that go out with my name on it are tested and have the right recipes. The other part that's really important is I hire the teams that go in and prepare my meals. So
Okay.
I have teams in each of these locations in these commissary hubs that report up to us, and we ensure quality that way. I have two like culinary directors that assist me because obviously I can't be in all these cities all the time. They assist me in doing quality control and quality oversight,
Mhm.
and we're traveling a lot into these places to make sure things are, yeah, to my standards.
Really cool. Thanks for sharing that. Get into some leadership and developing people. One of my definitions of leadership I heard from my mentor is leaders develop other leaders. When a young cook or manager joins one of your teams, what's the signals you look for that that person's a future leader in your organization? Like, what do you look for when you hire like the future leaders in your company?
Yeah, for me, I look for drive, I look for passion, and I think good energy
Yep.
too, someone that's like, kind of positive
Yep.
most times. But there are certain signals in the culinary world where somebody wants to excel and grow. They're
Mhm.
cooking things, they're making things, they're showing you things, they're wanting you to like engage and see what they're doing. And that's half the battle for me. If I see that in a young chef or cook, I'll usually gravitate towards them and say, hey, let's work on this project together, or let's do this together. It's an interesting, our culinary field is, again, I think we've talked about it. It's tough. It's physically demanding. It could be like long hours.
Mhm.
So leaders are important to make sure that we streamline workflow, that we work smarter, not harder. And yeah, I mean, I think it is a challenging space, but if I see someone, I'll try my best to develop them.
You mentioned energy and passion. That's so on point. To me, what do you think? I think energy and passion in the business world, you mentioned you played football back in the day, is speed on the football field. Like you can't teach speed. And like you can't teach someone to be energetic and passionate. They either have it or they don't. Like, they're either really into it and they're engaged. They'll make mistakes and stuff, but they're just always there trying to learn. And what do you think? Like that energy it can't be taught. You either got it or you don't.
That's very true, Joe. But here's the thing that I think is tough in cooking is, and it's a realization I've had too, where, man, you can still have, and this is against what I'm saying, but I'm going to let you know, you could still have energy and passion, but you may not have that skill to just make something taste good or
Mhm.
like see it all the way through, because cooking is not necessarily, it's, while there's a recipe you can follow, ultimately there is a talent level that is required, a certain amount of detail orientation to make a dish taste good.
Mhm.
And so that I would say is not always there. I've had a few folks definitely who are like, they're hungry, they show up, they're there, but man, they can't cook. They can't get there. They can't. And
Not happening.
that's that's a tough one for me, because I pride myself on like, look, I can teach you anything. I can teach you, but ultimately you're gonna have to do this on your own. And when that time comes, hey, you got to get there.
Yeah, I think that's why my wife asked me to do the cook unity because I think I got the energy and passion, but it's not happening. Like in the kitchen, I think I'm one of those guys. Like I'm trying to do the recipes. Like you know what? Let's do some cook unity. I think we're better off. No one gets injured, right? No injuries in the kitchen. How about
Right.
like you mentioned one of your, I think it was Amada or something, one of your restaurants, like they finally got that great review from the Philadelphia Inquirer. Like, how do you handle, you work so hard and you, like you said, I think you mentioned a few minutes earlier, you put your house on the line, you took loans out, you had to raise $1 million. You do all that. And then how do you handle the criticism? Like some flippant restaurant critic comes in and he's having a bad, maybe got in a fight with his wife and he comes in, he just gives a bad review or whatever. Like how do you decide what's valuable feedback? Like, wow, that's thoughtful feedback. We're going to be better because of that review. Or that's something just brush off. This guy's a jerk and not listen to it. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, it does. And I would say that was more relevant 10 years ago in
Uh,
terms of critics.
yep.
Unless you're, in the New York Times, if then there are only a handful of critics these days that I think carry the clout that
Mhm.
all of them used to back in the day. Right now, Joe, it's really about Google
Yeah.
reviews. Google, Yelp, if you have a reservation system, Open Table or Resi,
Yeah.
you'll get a common number, right? An in common opinion from the masses. And that's really what we're fighting for right now. It's not that one voice,
Yeah.
it's a multitude of voices that are saying, hey, you're at a 4.6 or you're at a 4.7, you're not a 4.9 or a 5.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I think that's really the more challenging note right now. So I'll tell you, we talked about my restaurant in Allentown, Okachi, right?
Mhm.
So we opened it. I'm super proud of it. It's a Japanese izakaya sushi concept. There's some Peruvian influences there. I just love the cuisine and when the product we put together there. And first 3 weeks, we have nothing but 5-star reviews. 5 stars across full, and then somebody gives us a 1 and drops us all the way down to whatever it was, like a 4.6, 4, and it's like, man. So that's the challenging part right
Yeah.
now. Is like, who is that person that dares, like, hey, I would never give, if I was going to give somebody a 1 star, I just wouldn't review it,
Yeah. Sure.
right? There's no sense in that. What's really, and if you really had a problem, call the restaurant and be like,
Yeah.
hey, I don't like the way I was, my steak was cooked that night, and so it just, To me, I lead from positivity. I can't the negative nature of reviews are not really useful. I think there's just other avenues.
Absolutely. There's Seth Godin, who's a mentor of mine, and he's famous for saying 1 star reviews are worthless because it's basically not for them. Like it's not good. Like someone who gives you a 1 star review, the most thoughtful ones are like 3, 4, 3, 5. But like someone's a 1 star, that's just they did something that's just not for them. Like that's not their cup of tea, and go somewhere else. They're better off going to Applebee's or something, you know?
What's great about technology is operators are getting real feedback, right?
Mhm.
Like people are reviewing, you're getting real. So it's up to you as an operator chef to like make the changes, make the
Yeah.
adjustments. You'll usually find some commonalities around any disgruntlements or any things that seem off, and then you just fix them. You get to it.
Yeah, and here's fun about the Google review. So my wife and I, my son studied in Rome this semester at Temple University, right? So we
Yeah.
go over there, we take a trip up to Florence, and we're doing the Yelp or Google, and there's one in this piazza that has 10,000 more 5 star reviews than every other trattoria in that little piazza. So we go to that one. I'm like, why is it? And it was good. What happens? The owner, after every meal, comes to the table with the limoncello, because get your phone out, and he has the QR code, and he's giving you drinks, and he sits over your shoulder as you punch out the 5 star reviews. So he's giving the shots. He goes,
Oh,
"Hey, here's some limoncello," and he's right there with just hit the five. Like he does it with you. Then he goes to the next table. Like his whole job all night was pouring limoncello shots, getting 5 star reviews as the meal was done, and it was like 5 times the reviews of the other ones in that little piazza, which is pretty wild. And just a little thing of limoncello, like crazy is little
well,
how he made that happen.
Joe, I'm going to tell you, you gave me an idea because we were chatting about that. And the thing is, I think like how do we get more people to review us, right? And I think there is some thoughts around it can't be a product giveaway, right? And again in Italy, and look, people probably get away with it, but there is a sense of like, hey, how do we get people to really jump on and review us and see how it goes? So I don't know, it might not be limoncello, but it might be a shot of tequila. I don't
Yeah, yeah. Let's kill with the QR
know.
code. Like literally, have someone walk around
Yeah.
with the QR code, and as they're like wrapping up your meal, like you're shaking their hand, thanks for coming out, and like I think that would expedite. I mean, that exponentially moved there. And I'll send you the link of that place offline. I'll send it
Yeah,
to you
yeah.
just to show how many Google reviews they have, and the guys are pro doing it. Cool. I appreciate that. Let's move over, wrapping this up. Let's go over to a part of the interview we call Share Your Secrets. Chef, so people can get to know you a little bit more as a person. Chef Jose, you have so much going on. You got the family, you got all these concepts, restaurants in all these different states, Cook Unity. When you need to clear your mind and recharge your body, what do you do?
I've been I'm in my 50s, so I've been not no spring chicken. I've been doing this for a while. And I would say the last 2 years, I've taken a wellness approach to my whole being, right? Like it's, family, business, and wellness is up there now. It's like
Mm,
competing on that level because the other aspects will take over and will continue to like I don't want to say suck the life out of you, but will take a lot of energy from you. So you have to make a conscious decision to really take care of yourself. And so I've done that. I would say for the past 3 years, it's been a heavy focus for myself because I want to be around for my
yeah.
grandkids. I want to be around for there's a lot certainly there's a lot in medicine and health that can extend our lives if we take care of ourselves now. So I'm a big advocate of a meditation, wellness practice, sauna, massage, exercise. All of that is part of yoga. That's
Yeah.
all part of my daily routine. And I'm moving 6 days a week, at least an hour to 2 hours a day. In fact, I'm up here in Portland, Maine. It's cold. There's a lot of snow. So I decided to pick up Nordic skiing or cross country skiing, and I've been doing it, and I've been absolutely loving it. And
What a
so,
workout.
yeah,
It's amazing workout.
amazing workout. Yeah, and I find that if I dedicate the time to those activities,
Yeah.
then I'm just a much better person.
Yeah.
I'm a better partner for my wife. I'm a better dad for my kids. I'm a better mentor for my business folks. So
Yeah.
it's yeah.
You got to schedule that in. Like I'm 50 as well. And like, if you don't do that, you're not as good in the kitchen. You're not as good as a dad. You're not as good as a parent. That hour you break away, you think, well, it's an hour I'm not with my work or I'm not with my family. You're actually better when you come back because you did that hour yoga, hour and a half, you're out cross country skiing, right? Like your head's clear, your body's recharged, and you're just a better human being at the end.
100%, 100%. I'll say this too. Like recently, I've been like meditation and kind
Mhm.
of getting in touch with the way your mind works, the way thoughts come in and out. There's a great app called Waking Up. Sam Harris is
Mhm.
the gentleman who kind of runs it, came up with it. He does an amazing meditation. I'm finding a lot of benefit to sitting and meditating for just 10 minutes every
Mhm.
morning. I started scheduling it 7 a.m., 10-minute meditation, followed by a little reflection or some other like
Sure.
affirmation to get the day going. And it's made an impact. I'll tell you that much.
That's so great. I had Hodger Gracie on. Hodger is the greatest jiu-jitsu fighter of all time. And he's a 10-time world champion. And I asked him this question. He said the same thing, meditation. Everything in the morning, he meditates for like 10, 15 minutes. And it's like non-negotiable. It's in his calendar. No matter what's going on, he's meditating. And he's a better person on the other side of that. That's
It sets you up for success. I think what I've found is that it grounds you to a point where you're almost focusing on being your best self during that time. Like, how can I get to my center is what some folks say, get to my center, my core self. And then at least for a few hours, you're there.
mhm,
You're in
yeah.
your
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
so
Absolutely.
things might change in the afternoon or evening, but
It
at
could
least
definitely
for a
change.
little while, yeah.
It's like brushing your teeth. Like you brushed your teeth today, you gotta brush them again tomorrow, or like taking a shower. Like just because you bathed on Monday doesn't mean you gotta bathe again on Tuesday. It's like it's a daily practice, right? It's got
Right. And if we could get everybody centered for
yeah,
just a couple hours,
yeah.
just a couple,
If I could chill
just,
the freak out, right? I mean,
yeah,
like
yeah. Then,
just chill.
yeah, then I think life might feel different for
Yeah,
everyone. If everyone could just get to some practice or, mindfulness work. I don't know.
yeah.
That's me.
Yeah, give him a shot of tequila or limoncello. Let him chill out after after the freaking
Yeah.
yoga. I love it. How about this? I saw being a big fan of your restaurants. I see sometimes your cookbooks are in there, right? I see
Yeah.
your work. So I've never met an author that doesn't have a favorite author. Do you have a favorite book or a favorite author? What books have influenced you?
One of my favorite chefs of all time in my era is Thomas Keller. So he has the French Laundry Cookbook.
Mm-hmm.
And I think more than anything else, Thomas has been and is just a great American chef, someone who has just paved the way to, I would say, kitchen excellence, integrity in the kitchen, professionalism, raising up the standard of what it is to be a cook or a chef. And he did that, I mean, for several decades and continues to do it. So I'm a big fan of Thomas's professional work. I don't know Thomas personally, but his professional work style and ethic and what he stands for, I'm a big fan of.
Thanks for sharing that. Chef, we spoke about a lot from everything from your start in the kitchen with your mom and dad to moving to Philly, up in Maine, Cook Unity, Amada, all your restaurants, your concepts. If you could have everyone listening take just one lesson away from everything we discussed, what would that lesson be?
Wow, that's a good one. I think what's front and center for me is what we talked about in at the last our last segment about meditation and being like just, I think that one of the things that's come to me in a special way is that we're all just part of the universe. And if we can all be aware and be more loving, generally speaking, I think we'll be in a much better place.
Be aware and more loving. And like we said earlier, maybe everybody just chill the heck out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody can just chill out and get along. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
hear
guys.
you.
Come on. Come on. Yeah.
Here, Chef, two fun questions just to wrap everything up. Ask these of all the guests. All right, two fun questions. Here we go. Chef Jose, if you could spend the day with anyone, alive or dead, famous or not famous, who would you spend the day with?
Ooh, famous or not famous? I think I would love to spend some time with Michael Jordan. I was a Chicago
Yeah,
guy,
let's go.
and I watched The Last Dance
Yeah,
recently. I've watched it twice, and man, just someone who had incredible drive
yeah.
and work ethic, and just committed to their craft, committed to winning. And I'd love to sponge a little bit off that and just understand a little bit more of how he got there, and yeah, what drove him to be that, to me, the greatest basketball player of all time, the
I,
GOAT.
yeah, I agree. No, I totally agree. Him and Tom Brady, the two goats. What I love with him is he would make shit up to piss himself off. To like when he retired, like the greatest basketball player ever, he brought the coach in high school who cut him from the varsity team and just said you made a mistake, like in like his retirement ceremony. Like he like held on to stuff, like he made shit up, like he made stuff up just to get himself angry, and he drove that, fueled him, right? Like
Yeah,
he just always had something that like he made like the villain, so he would just went freaking nuts and went crazy like on the
right,
court.
right.
Wow. I don't know if this is on The Last Dance or something. They asked him like a time he was nervous. He said he didn't touch a basketball in, I don't know, years. And then like Phil Knight had him over his house, and his grandkids had a basketball court there. And his grandkids like, oh, can you shoot a foul shot for us? And like the whole Knight family was watching. And he's like in his like, like loafers and khakis. And he's like, it was the most nervous foul shot he ever take, but he swished it. And it's like the first shot he made in years. I thought it was so cool. Last question. Chef Jose, if you had to get a quote or a saying tattooed on your body, what would that quote or motto say?
Quote or motto? Well, I would say, may not be a quote, but it's the name of my consulting practice, which is called Condor Valley. Condor is a national bird of Ecuador. It's a majestic bird. There's something about the bird and kind of its origin and where I'm from, that in fact my son actually got it tattooed recently. I'm not a big tat person, but he got it against our will. But I was like, oh, there was something special about it. So he did it in my honor. And I just think that knowing where you come from and understanding that and paying honor and homage to that, I think is important. And yeah, that's where I would go with
I
it.
think knowing where you come from, and the Condor is about as good as a spot as any to wrap this up. The Iron Chef, Jose Garces, thank you for joining us. Such an honor to have you on. And Chef, if people are looking for you and everything you do online, where can we find you?
Go to chefgarces.com. I'm actually launching a new version of my site in the next week or so, and it's going to be awesome. Lots of recipes, lots of content, lots of information. So chefgarces.com, you'll see it.
I'll put all that in the show notes. Chef, thank you for joining us. Honor to have you on the show, and wish you nothing but continued success.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Be well.
Appreciate it.
Bye
Thank you
now.
so
Yep.
much, Chef. I
You
appreciate
got
you.
it. Bye
Take care,
now.
buddy.
Yep.
Thank you.
Take care.
See you.